people, Alana, say that it's you that have actually got hold of him and tamed him.
I don't think there's anything to do with taming him. I just think that maybe getting married and having children, you'd rather spend more time with them than be out in nightclubs or up all night.
Superstar Rod Stewart wasn't exactly settling down, but just 4 months into their marriage, on August 21st, 1979, Alana Stewart gave birth to Rod's first child, a daughter named Kimberly.
My favorite thing to do is go on stage. I was like, oh my God, Dad, please put me on stage. Like, please put me on stage. Like, I loved it. I wouldn't stop bugging him until I got to go on stage, and he'd say yes.
Every beat of my heart.
A year later, their son Sean was born.
I think it's kind of funny, dude, because I've seen pictures like my dad's wearing tights, you know? I'm like, Dad, why are you wearing tights? You know, I guess that's what people wore back then.
He would come out in these outfits, like fluorescent pink polka dots with yellow and black and burgundy checkered pants. I'd be like, Dad, you have to change. This is so embarrassing.
As he strutted his way across the world's concert stages in 1982, 37-year-old Rod was torn between the conflicting roles of rock star and father.
In the early days, I think I was under the illusion that if you were a father and a devoted husband, that it would ruin my image.
Don't let him put you down, don't let him push you around.
Rod's rock hero image had already been dealt a blow by his flirtation with disco.
Is there anything you would do differently if you had it to do all over again?
Oh, millions of things, millions of mistakes that I've made. Sometimes I wish I'd never recorded To Think I'm Sexy, but everybody, the public love the song, so that's what counts.
In a bid to reclaim his rock and roll reputation, Rod overhauled his management team in the spring of '82. A year later, agent Arnold Stiefel became his manager.
Rod and I talked about building a rebirth kind of thing to recapture his audience and find out what his audience was going to be for the next chunk of his career.
It was a time of profound change for Rod on a professional and personal level. He and Alana separated in '83.
We were great fun together. It's just one of those things, once we got married, it all changed, you know, and I'm not blaming it all on her. I take responsibility too.
Alana has been quoted in the press as saying that she was real angry at what she called your, and I quote, swinging lifestyle.
Did she say that? It's very unlike her to use such old-fashioned 60s expressions like swinging lifestyle.
But of course, you know, a few years later, I went and did it again. Don't rush into marriage, I should have said. But I went and did it again a few years later. Heart stronger than the mind.
When I give my heart again, I know it's gonna last forever.
Rod's heart fell for another Texas beauty in '83, fashion model Kelly Emberg.
I thought, what a sweet guy. I feel so sorry for him. He's going through this divorce. You know, he has writer's block. I saw his sensitive side, and I fell in love with him, I guess.
Kelly joined Rod on tour and got an eye-opening view of Rod's rigorous life on the road.
It was really hard at times because it's all about what he's doing, and he can't speak to you because he has to save his voice.
You become a prisoner of your own voice. You're constantly worried about the temperature. You're constantly worried about people smoking around you. It was a pretty vulnerable spot just there.
You can't really go anywhere because everyone knows who he is, and it's uncomfortable. So after 10 days of the tour, I'd have to, like, leave and do my thing and come back.
Rod was reaching millions of fans in the early '80s. And by 1984, he was in the vanguard of the music video revolution.
He was certainly one of the centerpieces of MTV. For every single, there was a video that went with it.
Rod was entertaining on MTV, but he'd lost his status as a rock and roll hero.
He didn't have the image he wanted to have. He wanted to be rock and roll.
It took me a couple of years before I actually got back. I listened to my own voice and said, you got to get in the studio and just work your ass off. I went through a period where I wasn't very creative, I think. I was partying and enjoying life as one must.
Reconnecting with his blues-based roots, Rod reunited with an old friend, guitar legend Jeff Beck.
People get ready, there's a train coming.
Rod Rod lent a soulful rendition of People Get Ready to Beck's 1985 album, Flash.
That was such a magical moment, you know. We laid that down real quick. Just that voice and that guitar, it's magical.
Don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord.
We don't always see eye to eye on many things, but I think that's what makes us creatively magic when we play together.
The following year, Rod continued his musical homecoming. In the summer of '86, at the end of a Wembley Stadium concert, Rod surprised fans by reuniting with the Faces for an unannounced half-hour set. Emotions ran high as former bandmate Ronnie Lane was led on stage, suffering from multiple sclerosis.
It was quite a tearjerker. And it was nice to see that, you know, for anyone's differences, that everyone had got together again and forgotten about it.
Do you think putting the Faces back together again will teach new bands how good rock and roll is supposed to be played?
Well, there's nothing new yet these days.
Bill Wyman, extraordinary bass player, and Ian McClagan, extraordinary keyboard players have just turned up.
Rod Stewart, extraordinary jackets.
It's unfortunate, isn't it?
The following summer, Rod became a father for the third time when his girlfriend Kelly gave birth to their daughter Ruby.
We were together 3 years before we had Ruby.
I think he was very, very engrossed in his work when Kimberly and Sean were born. But then Ruby come along, and I think he realised what he'd missed out with the other two.
You've got to be there if you're a parent. There's no other way around it. Kids come into your life, you start to get everything into perspective. You know, that football results are not the most important thing in the world. That your kids' health and their happiness is.
And do unto others as you'd have done to you.
Rod continued his rock and roll renewal in the spring of '88 by winning back the critics with Out of Order, a top 20 album blessed with 3 top 20 singles.
Forever young, forever young.
That same year, Rod experienced a more personal triumph. When, with his father in the crowd at a Wembley Stadium charity match, he scored a goal for Scotland against England.
To Kenny Dalglish again. And towards Stewart once more. Phil Parks is out. Rod Stewart has scored.
To play at Wembley Stadium is like playing at the Super Bowl. That's what a big occasion it was.
He got this cup. We have pictures of him drinking beer or something out of the cup with his father, and it was a very exciting thing for him.
Dad was very, very pleased. He's seen his son score a goal at Wembley Stadium for Scotland against England.
Oh, the summertime is gone.
Though he didn't pursue it professionally, soccer has remained Rod's passion.
And the leaves are sweetly turning.
Soccer has been the mainstay of my life. I mean, it really has kept me together.
Rod and fellow Englishman Lionel Conway formed the LA Exiles soccer team.
When we used to pick up teams, everyone would want to pick Rod first, not because he was a celebrity, but he was the best player.
You play with good players, they make you look good. And I was surrounded by good players.
He's just one of the guys. And on the field, he's just a right back. That's all Rod is. He's a right back.
He could have been a good football player. He's very fit, he played brilliantly. I mean, I don't play very well at all. So we've had huge arguments about football.
And we'll all grow together.
He considers football his love. I mean, he loves singing as well, but, you know, it can only go so far. Then football will take over from that.
I love the camaraderie of it. You know, it's wonderfully grounding. I know that sounds an old cliche, but it is. It's tremendously grounding.
He's got his own football pitch within his grounds, and he spent a lot of money on that.
You're always sort of aware that soccer is a big priority for him.
Recording session, game of football. You know, I don't have to tell you which one he ends up doing.
So we literally build tours around the soccer games.
As the '80s ended, Rod was once again scoring hits on a regular basis in America. But his European sales were sluggish, so he approached the head of Warner Brothers in the UK, Rob Dickens.
Rod said, why don't I sell records here anymore? And I said, you know, you're an okay singer of okay songs, but you're a great singer of great songs. And I don't think you've done a great song in some time. And he said, you can find a great song? And I said, yeah, I can find you a great song. He said, well, okay, then do it.
Dickens knew the song to resurrect Rod Stewart's vocal soul.
Outside another yellow moon has punched a hole in the nighttime, yes.
I went over to his house in Epping with Downtown Train by Tom Waits. I played it once, and I said to Rod, don't say anything. And I played it again, and I played it a third time, because I just didn't want that immediate reaction. I wanted the song to sink in.
Well, I see you tonight on a downtown train.
I loved it because I could hear a melody in there that I didn't think Tom was singing. You know, and well, I see you tonight on a downtown train.
Well, I see you tonight on a downtown train.
It was the end of 1989, and Rod had just completed Storyteller, a 25-year retrospective of his career. Rod recorded Downtown Train as a last-minute addition to the collection.
All my dreams fall like rain on a downtown train.
Rod sent the finished track to his sister Mary.
And it just made me cry. And he said, oh, we've got a hit here. Mary's crying.
By the spring of '90, Downtown Train went top 10 in England and America, further restoring the critics' faith in the soulful resurgence of Rod Stewart.
I just think they rediscovered why they loved him in the first place. I think that's what happened with the critics. It jolted everyone back to what he could do.
There was a period when he was not fashionable, but he never stopped singing, and he never stopped making albums, and he never stopped having hits.
On a downtown train.
Coming up, a love story becomes a legal battle.
This old heart of mine been broke 1,000 times.
It was on the news that I was suing him for $25 million.
The women tend to go for the pocketbook.
And Rod's world is all shook up.
It was a horrible experience. I mean, I never want to go through another earthquake again.
When Behind the Music continues.